How we doing, folks? R&B Fantasy here.
Hello.
Actually, it's R&B squared now because we have our good friend Bick here, finally
Yeah.
joining us for some content. Finally. So we're gonna be going over some best ball ADPs and kind of just guys that we thought were a little bit questionable, so we can discuss whether we take them there or not, and then potentially guys that we would prefer over them. So, how you guys doing today?
I was good until Bagel decided to start bothering me.
Bagel always has to intrude on our recordings.
She sheds a ton
Always.
as well, so I'm just like getting swamped in cat hair.
Yeah, I'm doing great. This is nice to be on here. Good to get
God.
the nerves out.
Mm-hmm. Is that H2O you drinking right now? It looks like you
Water?
just spit it out.
Oh no, I'm fine.
That was
I'm
a
not
big gulp.
nervous.
That was a big
I'm
gulp.
not nervous at all.
That's that filtered water.
Damn straight.
I can
Yep.
confirm that's good water that he has in his fridge. I can tell
What
you
was
that
that
right now.
water? What was that water we discovered yesterday?
Black Top Smart Water,
Black Top
courtesy
Smart Water.
of Zandy Savage.
Yep.
I'm
Shout
gonna have
out
to try that
Zandy.
out. I gotta try that out. I didn't know there
All
was a
right.
Black Top Smart Water.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to see if I have that in the stores. But anyways, we are gonna go over some best ball ADPs, like I mentioned. So we're on a bit of a time crunch, so we're gonna start hammering home already. So we're gonna basically go off of Underdog ADP. It's what we kind of use a lot for best balls. Vic loves to use FFPC, so there are some discrepancies. But this is strictly meant for Underdog because obviously their ADP is a lot different than other platforms. So once we get closer to redraft season, we'll be going over ADPs for different platforms like ESPN, Yahoo, Sleeper, so on and so forth. So this is just strictly best ball. So just keep that in mind going forward. So the first player we're going to discuss is Garrett Wilson at the end of round 1 at pick 11. Bick, what are your thoughts on Garrett Wilson at that spot?
I'm all in. I think it's fair. It's about where he was going last year when Rodgers was healthy, and I think it was justified then. I think it's justified now. Did he have a good season last season? No, he was wide receiver 33 in points per game, I think it was. But you and I were throwing him the football out there, so I don't. It's hard to knock him for that. Obviously, there's the risk that Rodgers gets hurt again with his older age. Maybe his injury or his prior injury doesn't heal proper, and we end up seeing shitty quarterback play. But when the guy's averaging 10 targets a game, he had like a 30% target share for the team. He got 58% of the wide receiver targets last year. Yes, they added Mike Williams, who literally cares. Not me
I don't
personally.
care. Yeah, no.
Don't forget
I'm
about Malachi Corley.
oh my bad. Once again, who really
No
cares?
matter what.
So I'm in on Garrett Wilson personally. The only reason I wouldn't take him in that spot is if I'm going running back, like if Gibbs made it to the turn, or maybe if I want to get Taylor in that situation. So if I'm going running back, but I'm not going to take. I mean, I'm used to, like I said, I'm used to FFPC where it's tight end premium. So Laporta is going around there, but so yeah, if I'm not taking a running back, then I'm probably going to take him there because I just think there's a tier break between him and like London, Marvin Harrison, etc. Like the guys after him. I think he has the potential to be wide receiver 1 overall if Rodgers can be healthy and play the way that he has historically. So yeah, I'm in on Garrett Wilson at his current cost personally.
Nice. Yeah, I mean, I'm not a huge like I'm not against the price, but a lot of times I may like end up getting like Puka there, or like you had mentioned, and prefer Gibbs in that spot. But then again, you could also get Gibbs based on the ADP on the following turn. If like you get him at 11, you could potentially get Gibbs at 14. So you kind of have to play the board a little bit and see the builds. But I personally prefer Puka over him. That's just my preference. I would much prefer, like, if I was drafting just one main entry, I'd go Puka over Garrett Wilson. But obviously, if you do a lot of the puppy drafts and you want exposure to everybody, you're going to end up getting guys that you don't want. So, Boyd, what are your thoughts on Garrett Wilson?
I like Garrett Wilson. I think he's definitely. I see a tier break after him, especially with the wide receivers. I prefer him over Gibbs for sure. Just because I want that first round wide receiver, and like I said, I think he's right around that cusp of that tier break. Kind of him, Puka. I guess AJ Brown, even though I prefer AJ over both of them this year. I think that's kind of like the last stand of the tier 1, like, or not tier 1, but the top tier wide receivers that you can get in round 1. And then
Mhm.
after that, it's kind of pick your poison, close your eyes, throw a dart.
Yep.
Who do you want? You want
Right.
London, Marv? Do you want Olave, Ayuk? Devontae's in there, Waddle's in there. So yeah, I like Garrett Wilson. I think he's priced appropriately. I've been
Mhm.
drafting him every time that I have the chance to. Like if I have the chance to take AJ Brown, taking him. But if Garrett Wilson's been there, I take him. I think I got like 10% of him, so I've been healthily rotating him in there.
Now, would you take him over Bijan or Brees Hall if those two were on the board?
No, I take the running backs over him.
Agreed.
Gotcha. That's just like the half PPR play, I get, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Just get it securing those like one of those top 3 guys.
Yeah, those are the 2 running backs I'll take over him.
All right. Well, if we don't have any other further remarks on Garrett Wilson, we'll move on to.
I think Garrett Wilson definitely, like Big said, has wide receiver 1 potential, and I don't really know who I prefer between him and Puka this year. Obviously Cooper Kupp's there with Puka, and that's not ideal, but Puka had the best rookie season of all the wide receivers. So pretty much how I feel about that. Since Ryan kind of alluded to it, I just want both of them. Just give me the good wide receivers. I like drafting good wide receivers, and one of the luxuries of playing in a bunch of best ball leagues that I can draft a bunch of the players that I like without having to worry about not getting some more later on. I can always draft another team, and I can always get Puka, or I can always get Garrett. Draft good wide receivers. So yeah, Garrett Wilson, good price, could take him. Hopefully Aaron Rodgers' arm is okay, and his Achilles is able to hold up.
Right. Yeah, because that tier break after those, like Puka and
Garrett
Wilson,
I just don't. I don't want to take
not great.
Marvin London. I like London, but I have more confidence in Garrett. That's just the truth.
Agreed. Yeah.
Right. Love those points, gentlemen. So moving on, we're going to discuss the tight ends. So I know, Bick, this is usually not where you would see these tight ends go because you're in a tight end premium format. But Laporta ends up going at pick 34, which is at the end of round 3. And then Kelce goes at the start of round 4 based on ADP at 38. Now, out of these two, who do you think would be the better choice out of these, like regardless of like the ADP, just in terms of fantasy production, because they're basically going at the same spot?
I'm rocking with Kelce.
I'm not.
I could tell by Big's face that he wasn't.
Yeah. I just think he's 35 years old. And while he was still great last year, I just think the second half of the season, and honestly like 75% of it, because I was looking at McBride stuff before this, and I went from week 8 to week 18, which is when McBride started getting full playing time. And during that stretch, Kelce was tight end 11, and it's variance. I get that. I just think he's in a declining environment when Laporta just had one of the best rookie tight end seasons, if not the best ever. And I just think it's a no-brainer for me, especially because, and the points that I have about this is that honestly, I'm not really taking either at their cost. I would rather wait another round and a half and get McBride, Andrews, Kincaid, Pitts. Like even later, and taking Evan Ingram, even later than Evan Ingram, and taking Njoku. Like, I just think I'm not paying up for those guys. Even in tight end premium, it's really not how I roll. I'll go with the second tier of guys just because I think they all have upside to be in that first tier. I don't think it's as far apart as people make it out to be. So, yeah. So really, I'm avoiding both of them. If I were picking one of them, though, I would take Laporta, even though he's more expensive.
I got you. Yeah, I mean, I'm in the boat where if they fall in ADP, like if they go to that mid 4th round, I may be intrigued to scoop them up depending on how my build is going. But like you mentioned, like I'd rather get, the Mark Andrews later on. Evan Ingram, I'm still on, like from like same as last year. Like tight end's just very weird because there's very few options at cost that I really like. So it's very limited in terms of who, like if I was drafting like, one singular team, who would I really want to target? And Laporta and Kelce are definitely not on my radar usually.
Yeah, I'm not drafting either of them very much. I think, let me look. I've got Laporta at less than 1% rostership, so I really have not taken any of him. I think I have one time. And then I've got Kelce at like 6.5. So that's through 120 drafts. I'm just not. The cost is just too high compared to what I think you'd be able to get, like Vic said, at the next tier, which I think is also kind of just the same tier. That's kind of why I don't like Laporta, is that I think the upside's higher with Kelce, even though there's a lot of mouths to feed though. But obviously I'm a Lions fan, so I think Laporta is probably the number 2 target there. I mean, unless Gibbs decides to go Super Saiyan mode. So I do prefer Kelce just because of the upside potential. I mean, it's Travis Kelce, and I don't think Laporta extends himself enough from the pack, but he could in year 2. I mean, he had like Big said, possibly the best rookie tight end season of all time. So I mean, he could easily just step on top of that and then just keep growing. That's what we want young players to do. The cost is just too high for me, like they mentioned. So it's not really a priority draft for me, unfortunately.
Yeah, I think with the new additions, like this is just a small like addition to Kelce. With the new additions at wide receiver that they have, I think that we'll see a lot less double and triple coverage on Kelce. So that could help. Hopefully, like he'll do better than he did last year. I'm a firm believer that he'll perform better than he did last year. But we may have seen the last days of him, being like, people quote him as being he would be like wide receiver 6 if he was a wide receiver.
Right.
Like I don't think those seasons are going to happen anymore.
Yeah, like
but
tier of his
there's
own.
still the upside of it. There's still the potential for it to happen. He's still with Mahomes in that like offense, so we'll see. But at the cost, I'd much prefer him in the 40s rather than late 30s.
Just take Mark Andrews.
Yeah, well, Mark Andrews goes a little bit later.
Yeah, just
Exactly.
take Mark Andrews.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, moving on, we are going to discuss this is very strictly because Underdog loves wide receivers. So they go off at the same wide receiver points, like in terms of like the wide receiver 40, like for instance on FFPC, but they go several rounds later than that on FFPC compared to Underdog, because Underdog people just love wide receivers and they just go off like hotcakes at the beginning.
Plus the start wide receiver 3. You start 3. So there's a little bit of a reason for it.
Mm-hmm. But in FFPC, there are 2 flex spots in the PPR format. So there's, it's a little dependent on it. But I do agree that
some dudes just love running backs, though. Some fellas just love running backs.
For sure. So in that late 60s to mid 70s region, we have Xavier Worthy, Ladd McConkey, Keon Coleman, Brian Thomas, and Rome Odunze. And I don't really know about you guys, but I feel it's just too pricey. Like I feel that would only make sense if you already had like 3 or 4 wide receivers already and you just want to hammer home like just that position.
The only one that I'm regularly drafting is Odunze because he has top 10 NFL draft capital, and the other receivers who have that in this class are going round 1 or going round 2, round 3. So him going round 6 is kind of a little bit funky in comparison. So I think Odunze is the best one to draft with that. But having McGinn Worthy, a little bit of Ladd when he falls to round 7 just because it's an ADP value. Not much Brian Thomas. Like I just don't understand why. Like Garrett Wilson 2 years ago was a really good prospect going like round 11. I just don't really understand why. I get it because like rookies at the end of the season is where you want the points to be, but like at a certain point we're putting them up too high of a price point for it not to be worth it. And then veterans are going to be better move, and that's to be the next strategy to take.
Yeah.
And so a lot of these rookies I think are just too highly priced.
Yeah, I feel like we've overcompensated. Before I felt they were too cheap, and now they're just way too expensive.
We're trying to adjust too much, it feels like. So the only one of those I've really been taking is Odunze, just because, like I said, top 10 draft capital, the prospect profile, like that, like kind of points towards like historically good production. Yeah. So that makes him kind of a different tier for me. But like I really just I don't really understand the pricing behind these rookies. I get it late season spike, but it's just too much.
I kind of get it. I kind of get it personally, honestly.
I get it, but like it's so expensive that it's hard for me to want to like. I don't think I've drafted much Worthy because he's so expensive. Yeah, and there's a lot of mouths to feed there, and I prefer Odunze, but Odunze somehow goes later sometimes. Like it feels like so. Yeah,
I don't really have any of either. I was trying to scroll quickly through, and even though and the stuff I'm looking at because I use the FFPC, like they're gonna go 2 rounds later anyway, so. It's kind of like looking at my stuff is a bit different because I'm seeing it priced differently than what we're talking about right now. Like I get why it is the way it is, because it feels like every year we're seeing more and more breakout years from rookie wide receivers that like we look at Tank Dell, we look at obviously Puka's like an exception, but Puka, like it happened and he went fucking ape shit. Like it's like guy. I just feel like every year there's like, oh, this class isn't as good as last class, but then people are breaking out anyway.
It's like the Jefferson class, like that. Like, I feel like that was the one that really opened.
And now we're seeing like McConkey and Coleman in situations where the top dog just walked out, maybe even the second guy after him. So the room's wide open, and even though it's not top 10, top 15 capital, it is still top 40 overall capital. And so like I get it. Like and I'm comfortable buying those guys because I am a lot of people are talent over situation guy. I am traditionally the inverse. It's like, you know what? If there's targets to go around and they're already pretty talented as is, maybe not the most talented in the class, but if you're in a wide open room, I'm okay with taking those shots, especially in best ball. But like Ryan said, normally I have 3 wideouts, and this is my 4th wideout at this point when they're being drafted. So, you know, I'm okay with them being my 4th wideout. I'm definitely not shooting for these guys to be my 3rd, but at the prices I'm looking at, they probably could be your 3rd. So, you know, it's give and take. But obviously, like any player, if they go a little bit later, I definitely feel more comfortable. But yeah, I have no Worthy. I don't think I'll have much. Brian Thomas, I just think his role, they signed someone to do his role, even though Gabe Davis fucking blows too. But like, he's at best the 3rd option for targets, so I probably won't even draft him
Not great,
very much either.
I like Brian Thomas, just not great.
Yeah,
I
me
think
too.
I've drafted him like only a couple times. Not very much Xavier Worthy. Sprinkled in a little lad, like 10%. Just a little lad, you know. And yeah, good amount of Rome. I think Rome, good profile. So that's just a bet that I'll always take. But yeah, it's getting to the point where like I'm looking at drafts and it's like Kyle Pitts or Xavier Worthy. And for me, every time it's Kyle Pitts, personally. Even like George Kittle, like I might even like I want the tight end advantage.
Yeah, I mean, looking at these guys that are around them, D Hop, I'm gonna probably take over these guys. Deontay Johnson, I would sell my soul for.
That's the issue I have. You know, I love Deontay, and I have a crap ton of Deontay, so it's hard for me to take that guy when I think Deontay's gonna get 150 targets, and it's just
Kamara at RB 17 is solid.
Even Mixon there,
I'll take a shot on Christian Watson, David Montgomery. Like, there's just too many options around them that I'm like in underdog. I'm definitely shying away from.
That's the issue I have too. Yeah, it's like what's around them.
So yeah, I get it. I just have FFPC brain, so
I'm misdrafting there. People would go like Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts.
Yeah,
just
that's
routinely,
awesome.
and then throw in like a Lamar Jackson a couple rounds later, just for fun.
Yeah, I mean, just to add to that, like I'm not a huge proponent of Odunze for the same reason I'm not for Worthy in terms of redrafts, just simply because like Odunze could end up being the 3rd option there still, and I'd much prefer to make the bet on Worthy in that case because he's got Mahomes. Like obviously, yes, Caleb is very good. We're not going to sit here and act like he's not, but he's not Pat Mahomes. Like he may.
I just think Odunze is in a different tier of prospect.
I agree.
So
I agree on that.
That is what separates it for me. It's just like I prefer obviously the NFL. Like if the NFL talks, I'm gonna listen because I don't pretend to be smarter than a GM because I'm just an idiot who plays fantasy football in this bedroom with a big boy painting. So I'm nothing. But I like the what they said, what they did about him. They took him early, 9th pick. That's good draft capital. Like similar to Waddle, Devonta ish. Like it's in that kind of range. Like it's not that far from neighbors, and he's going up 3 rounds later. Like I don't know. Sign me up. I'll throw us a couple shots on there.
Yeah.
Duh Bears.
The Bears. Yeah, I mean, if I was completely punting running back, I would probably take.
I don't draft many running backs, so that's kind of I wait till like round like 8 through like 10. I feel like is just prime running back territory. Like I can get Ramondre, Jonathan Brooks, Swift, even like Najee Warren, whatever. Like I feel like there's a lot of like Brian Robinson, Tajay, Pollard, Connor, Moser. Like there's just a bunch.
I mean, those are the guys I'm drafting, and
they're all there from like 8 to 10, 11ish.
And I'm going a bit when everybody's zigging, I'm kind of zagging. So when everybody's like sucking off the early wide receiver, I'm okay. I'm trying to draft a running back in the 1st round this year, honestly.
Me with Travis Etienne. I love Travis.
Yeah, like I'm trying to get one running back in the first 2 rounds. And sometimes
JT's value is great.
Yeah. So that's why, like I was saying earlier, like maybe I will end up hitting, I'll start with a heavy running back so then I can go 4 straight wideouts or whatever it is. So that's one of the situations. Like if I went heavy wideout to begin with, and then I know that I can fall back on those running backs after, then maybe I end up drafting one of these rookie wideouts.
Yeah, I agree. So do we have any other thoughts on these rookie wideouts?
No. I think we talked enough about them. We probably got enough out.
Yeah. So now we're gonna move on to other rookies, and this will be our last little bit here
more
on this
rookies?
shorter segment. Yeah, but we're gonna moving over to the QB position. So we're looking at Jayden Daniels and Caleb Williams, and Jayden Daniels goes off before the Caleb Williams does, and it goes past pick 100. So Jayden Daniels, for those of you that don't know, goes at 102, and Caleb goes at the 108. So it's around that round 8-9 ish area. And I'm going to be honest with you, I'm not really looking to draft either one of them at that price because I shouldn't say that. I personally like drafting an elite QB at the beginning, so that's why I would never draft them at that spot, just because it wouldn't make sense with the builds that I go. But I would probably end up getting probably Jayden Daniels or Caleb if I was stacking with more Allen, something like that, or odunze if I happen to get him. But I just don't see a world where these two should be going that expensively when I could be getting guys that I don't really see as tier break from those two a little bit later. So I don't know what you guys think about those two guys.
I'm drafting both.
Drafting both?
I'm drafting both of them. Yeah, I think Caleb Williams is, and I'll start with Caleb Williams because he's easier to talk about in a concise manner. He's the first overall pick with arguably with potential for the best wide receiver room in the league outside of Houston. So I just
smashing.
I have no qualms. I will take him.
That's a big word for Elmo.
Sorry, man. I've got no issues drafting Caleb Williams in the slightest.
Better,
I think
better.
he's set up for success. QB 12 is a floor for him.
Yeah, it's just a whole there's a whole area there,
Yeah,
and I think he can hover around that. I mean, he had multiple 10 touchdown rushing seasons in college.
Yeah,
He's got a nose for the end zone. Great receiving core, like Big said. Sorry, let me cut you off.
You're good. You're good.
Go back into it. Dive back into it.
Yeah, and that's what I was gonna get into next. Is it's not like he doesn't have that rushing appeal that elevates some of these other quarterbacks. And there may be guys in the same tier as him. Maybe QB fucking 9 to 18 is just the same guy, but I just think his upside is way too high. I think he's set up way too well for success. I think he's gonna have a very strong rookie season. And then going to Jayden Daniels, unless anyone has anything to add for Caleb Williams, but I just feel like it's so much of an easy click for me. I just think he's just a shoo-in to be. If he's not good, it's because he blows. It's not, I think the caliber of player we've seen in college mixed with the way that they've set him up, even if his coaching staff is shitty, which they probably will be, but even if they are, I feel like he can just outplay that. I mean, we've seen Justin Fields
fantasy points with a shitty
shitty coaching.
He
just took the words out of my mouth, and he did not have the type of players around him that he does now. So
or a Heisman.
I just think he's in a great spot.
Yeah, I mean, my thing is that just because this is the reason why. It's because at 113 you can get Brock Purdy, 117 you can get Trevor Lawrence, 124 you can get Tua, and 126 you can get Jared Goff. And if we want to go even further, you can get Justin Herbert at 133.
I would take maybe Trevor over them, but I think otherwise the other three, they just don't have the upside, in my opinion. I prefer Goff over Tua. I don't think Tua has as much rushing upside. Goff doesn't really either, but they're both kind of the same. Pick a flavor. I don't know. I think the upside's higher with the two rookies. Maybe that's more so because they're unknown. I don't really know, but I think the upside's higher because I do like Lawrence though. I do like Lawrence.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it's just the way I think about it. Obviously Herbert is probably going to take a step back just because of the coaching staff changes and the decrease at the wide receiver position talent wise. But he was 11th in points per game. Purdy was 8th. And then Goff was 15th, Lawrence was 17th, and it basically that whole span between 8 and 17 between Brock and Lawrence was less than 2 points per game. So I don't know. That's just more of I'd rather get a position player that I like just because I can get those guys a little later. And once we get towards 140s, there's no position guys that I really want.
I think part of the problem for me is that I don't want to draft. Oh God, who goes around Caleb? Khalil Shakir. And that, I don't know. I just don't really have an interest there. I'd rather take
Yeah.
a shot on like Jalen Polk, who kind of goes in the later, like the 140-ish, like, or like a
Right.
Jalen Wright, Marshawn Lloyd even. Like, I feel like I would just rather stick my play. I don't know. So for
Yeah.
me, it's more of like a structure thing. I get what you're saying.
Yeah,
It's just
yeah.
for me, I kind of flip in like the opposite way, where I prefer like that spot and then hitting this spot for the other area.
And-
So it's like
and I
when
mean,
got
like-
a little bit.
Like you were saying, like the running backs that we were talking about earlier are in that area. Like I've been drafting a decent amount of Trey Benson, just because I don't trust. Connors just do. And it's very Derrick Henry of me. I've been saying about Derrick Henry for 5 years.
Fade the beast.
So, but I just think Connors do. And I just love that spot. So maybe I take Benson there. Maybe I take Brian Robinson. Maybe I take Spears. Like, so there's options, but
Javonte, I think, is also there as well.
he can eat shit and die. I've given up on him, but
Love Brian Robinson. Like Tajay.
yeah, the tides have turned for me. I was like, Brian Robinson sucks, and I love Javonte Williams about a year ago, and now it's like,
I know. I was shocked to see when you said that. In the chat.
I've evolved. Listen, you have to evolve. You have to. That's how you stay successful in this industry.
Yeah, but like the thing is that he got rid of.
Derby.
Yeah, but he got rid of Antonio Gibson and they got Austin Eckler. Come on, man. Like, how
Austin
are you
Eckler
gonna?
Sucks.
No, he does not.
Yeah,
Yes, he does. He's so.
I know. I'm just
He's not. I wish he was still the same, but man, that shark came and he jumped it. Like it was bad.
I don't want to get lost on the other quarterback here, but so Jayden Daniels, I'm okay taking too, because is he going to be QB1 overall? No, he's not. But we look at the last 5 QB1 overalls. We have Josh Allen, we have Jalen Hurts, we have Josh Allen, we have Pat Mahomes, and we have Lamar Jackson. What do 4 out of those guys, 4.5 of those guys have in common is that they run the ball like a motherfucker. So we look at Anthony Richardson last year before he got hurt, and he had 23 points per game as well. I don't know enough about Jayden Daniels as a passer. Like, I'll be honest, I'm not as big into college football and the dynasty scene as you guys are. So you probably know better about his abilities than I do. I know he won the Heisman, but I feel like a lot of that was predicated on his legs and what he did on the ground.
Yeah.
But that's important because so did Anthony Richardson. I mean, I knew he couldn't throw the fucking football, and it showed in a very small sample size that he was still struggling when he came up here. But it didn't matter because his legs were just way too good. He was too much of an athlete. And I'm not trying to compare them because they are different in terms of athleticism. Richardson's the most
that guy is crazy.
athletic quarterback to like ever come into the league.
That's insane.
But I still think Daniels has that, like you said, Konami code upside. I think that I'm willing to take that shot pretty easily as well, because upside wins championships and upside wins you big money in tournaments. So I'm going to take the upside of both of these guys, and Daniels is more expensive. I think I'll probably draft more Caleb Williams.
Yeah, I've drafted more Caleb, probably because of the Odunze, DJ Moore.
Yeah.
I kind of like Keenan as well, so it's probably because of that more so than I like Terry, like McCaffrey, Dotson, I guess. So
Yeah.
but I imagine that Daniels Terry is probably a pretty easy stack to acquire, and I imagine that, and I know I can confirm that the Caleb Williams stack's easy to get. It seems like Caleb falls like 20 picks past ADP just because nobody like has a bear that wants him, I guess. I don't know. Like sometimes he'll just fall. Like it's just weird. Underdog quarterbacks will just fall randomly because nobody wants to take them because they either already have one and they have the stack, or they don't have a stack and don't want that quarterback. So then like you just get some crazy values. I got CJ Stroud in the 90th, like 91st
That's
pick.
cool.
So I had to take CJ Stroud there. So just sometimes some wonky shit happens, but I have been taking a much more Caleb just because he's a little cheaper, and I have been stacking those receivers more so than Terry.
Yeah, I agree. I just don't like how I would much prefer Caleb, like you had said, Vic, just because of the price. Because just so you guys we're talking about how sometimes QBs can fall. Jayden Daniels went at the 96th pick in this draft that I was last in, and then these were the quarterbacks that followed at 4 in a row from 103 to 106. Jordan Love, Joe Burrow, Dak Prescott, Brock Purdy. They all fell to that area. And then Caleb Williams didn't get picked till 115. So I'd rather get Caleb Williams at 20 picks later than Jayden Daniels. Because
that also feels like a bit of a reach for Jayden Daniels based on
it was, but he didn't have a QB at that point, so he just
did he have Terry by chance or like Was it just for fun? Jayden Daniels, I think he's
Because-
good.
Oh no,
overall.
he did have.
Like,
He already had Stroud, and he does have Terry McLaurin, so that could make.
okay, so
that
I
could
guess
be
he
a
is
reason
Terry,
why.
but with the Stroud, I don't understand why you would reach. That's
No.
game theory stuff, I guess. But
Yeah, I mean, and then he got T-Law later on at 144, so it's like.
Well, that's definitely just bad drafting. I feel
yeah,
like at
that's
that
just
point.
not that's just not a good draft, unfortunately.
No.
Yeah, I
That
don't
was
care
the
what
guy
the
who's in the
value
first
is.
spot. Yeah.
but-
Unlucky.
Yeah, but like that's the thing that you could like that you'll see is that like
Yeah,
sometimes those
people do that.
quarterbacks just fluctuate. That's all. Like that's I guess my that's kind of why my thinking was a little skewed was just because I've seen quarterbacks fall like that, and I'd much prefer the proven ones than those. But it makes sense from an exposure standpoint. You take the upside swings with those two because you're not really getting McCarthy or May for the upside. You're just getting them as like the back end quarterbacks at the very end of the draft for those like minor small stacks.
Yeah.
Like same thing with like Will Levis. Like you're just gonna get those like kind of shitty stacks, but they're stacks.
Yeah.
I'm
Whereas, like, these guys are,
smashing
like-
that shitty Patriots stack.
I mean, bro, don't even get me
Every
started.
one of my
I have
teams
Vic,
has
I
Vic
have
was
Fantasy
telling
stack.
me this before.
I have 41% rostership of Javon Baker. I have 25% rostership of Jalen Polk. I have
Look at
25%
Dynasty.
rostership of Demario Douglas. And then let's look at my quarterbacks.
Douglas.
Drake May at 25%. Like I'm
Nice.
getting that cheap ass stack, and I don't feel
Take the
bad about it
Patriots
at
stack.
all.
My two
at
most
all.
rostered players are Pop Douglas, Jalen Polk.
I
Those two guys.
currently very small sample size. I currently do have more Jayden Daniels than I do Caleb
Okay.
Williams, but it's
Well, you
I
make good
haven't
noises.
I haven't done enough drafts for it to matter. Because I
You're
only
gonna
have
do one
the
with us this week, though, right?
true if I'm free. And Jayden Daniels,
If
yeah,
I'm free, speaks volumes.
I have two
Yeah,
two shares of Daniels and one share of Caleb Williams, so it's just a very small sample size, but
Yeah.
I do have more. I have double the amount even. So
Double,
Mhm.
twice,
I'm kind of
Double.
bullish. I'm kind of
Two.
bullish.
2. That's 50%. Oh, that'd be 100. Double.
Yeah.
I'm a little baked. If you listen to this long, I've been a little baked the whole time, but that's fine. Only the
I wish I
long
was.
viewers get to know.
Mm.
I'm gonna have to try
So,
that Black Top Smart Water.
Speaking of which, Bick, what's something that people should comment down below to let them
Yeah,
know
what's
they made it
what's
this
our
far?
question engagement bait of the day?
Oh gosh. Is it just a word?
Just
No,
like
it's just a
something you want
question.
to know. I don't know. I've asked water. I asked about fruit one time. I don't know. You just gotta. It's something. Get the people talking.
How PG are we here? I've been
We
cussing
can-
a lot.
Ryan's the host, so that's a good question for Ryan.
We're rated R, so you can go with whatever.
All right, name your favorite porn star.
This
All
is a
right.
dark question.
Hey,
Let us know in
Hey.
the comments below.
I'm not answering anything, but they can answer. They
Yeah,
can answer.
Yeah. Is Zandy
for us.
Savage? If you don't have an answer in the comment below,
I'm
then
just gonna
you're a
respond
fraud.
with this.
You got. There we go. All right.
Yeah, I will plead the
Hey,
fifth.
big boy.
The king.
I have Groot that flips you off.
Let's go.
That's amazing. All right, we're getting a little off the rails
All right.
here.
All right.
Thanks for
All
watching.
right, no, we're good. Thank you guys for watching. Make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe if you haven't. Share
Comment
us
your
on
favorite porn
socials.
star.
Yes, comment your favorite porn star.
I'll do it.
Join the Discord below if you guys haven't already. We're trying to get that a little bit more active now that we're going to be doing a little bit more best ball drafts. We're going live a lot more in case you guys missed this past weekend. So
We had a live
hopefully you guys
stream
can
in case
tune
you
in.
missed it.
Yep. We'll be tweeting those out at the beginning of the day, whether or not we plan to live stream a little bit later so that you guys can have a chance to, mark it on your calendar and not fall asleep. Swanky J, I see you.
Yeah.
What's that all
buddy.
about? So anyways, thank you, Bick, for joining us. Hopefully we can have you on for plenty more going
He'll be
forward.
back.
Keep this
Sure.
R&B squared, not just
Yes,
R&B.
sir.
So
We need
All right.
like a little logo underneath it that's squared.
yeah, just Bicky squared.
Let's go.
All right. Well, we've rambled on enough for this outro, so we'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye.
Peace.